Hello there, Internet. So, I know who I want to vote for in the presidential election, but I wanted to research who I should be voting for with all of the other political offices that are available. And I talked to my roommate about this, and she was like, "Oh, are you not registered to vote? Because here's all this stuff that I got in the mail about all of these candidates, and they're all addressed to me. Why aren't they addressed to you?" And that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I heard about people who thought that they were registered, and then once they went to vote, it turns out that they were not registered. I did register to vote a year and a half ago. It took forever for me to get that yellow card in the mail. It says, "This is your voter registration card." And I thought to myself, oh my God, what if I didn't register properly? What if that was why it took so many weeks for that card to come back to me? So I went to my drawer over there where I knew with absolute certainty, I knew that I put my voter registration card in this particular drawer, and I found some cards. They look right. This is what you get when you register to vote. And I had two of them, and I thought, okay, one of them would be from my old address, and then one would be from this new address that I got when I moved here almost 2 years ago. Yeah, they're both from the old address. I got both of these in 2011. And I can't find the one that I got back in 2014 or 2015. I looked all over that drawer. I looked in some boxes. I don't know where my card is. I thought for sure that it was in that drawer, and it is not, and I'm freaking out a little bit. And I have this just in case, but back in 2014 when I registered to vote with this address, I filled out, one of these, sent it in the mail, and it went off to Sacramento and didn't come back to me until several weeks later, maybe months later, I don't know. And the vote is in a month from now, and yeah, it's really stressful right now because I feel like voting's the only thing I've got. It's the only thing that I've got to prove to myself that I'm not a complete slacktivist or an armchair activist. I do something. I do that one action, which is go out to vote. And I know that I should do more, but I don't know what to do. And to be honest, I know that even when I do vote, I still feel like an armchair activist because I feel a lot more aware of a lot of problems that are happening in the world and in the United States. And I really struggle with not knowing how to address those problems because those problems are way bigger than me. And I don't know how to make a dent in them in any meaningful way. There are these two things that are happening in San Francisco right now, two different hunger strikes. There are the Frisco Five and then the Third World Liberation Front 2016. So the Frisco Five, they are protesting police brutality. Specifically, they want the police chief of San Francisco to be fired or for him to resign, and they're calling on the mayor to fire him, but the mayor is standing behind the police chief. So that's the struggle now. They have been on this hunger strike since April 21st, I believe. They have been hospitalized. It's pretty bad. And then at San Francisco State University, there are 4 students. One's 18, 2 of them are 19, and one is 20 years old, are on a hunger strike. Started on Monday, May 2nd. and still ongoing. The students are saying, don't cut funding to ethnic studies. You should be adding in more funding to ethnic studies so that the college can thrive better. That university is home to the first and, as far as I know, the only college of ethnic studies. And students fought for that back in the 1960s. They fought for their education to be decolonized and to be inclusive of everybody. I'm very grateful to all of the students, whether they fought in 1968 or 1999 or they're fighting now. I'm grateful for all of them for fighting for our education, because I know that I've personally benefited from that. I've benefited from being able to go to college and have the option to study everything that I wasn't allowed to study in K through 12. And I really fucking hate when people go to college and they see people can study ethnic studies, they can study women's studies, they can study LGBT studies, disability studies. Why can't we study straight, white, able-bodied men? And I was like, that's what you got to do for 13 fucking years. That was the requirement. You know, it was required by law that you go to school and you study these fucking subjects that were not inclusive in... Before now, I've never really understood hunger strikes. Back when the prisoners at Guantanamo decided to go on a hunger strike, and I thought to myself, why? You know, because if the powers that be cared about your well-being to care whether you starved yourself or not, they would care enough about you to not put you in Guantanamo and to shut Guantanamo down. So I didn't really understand why they did that. And it was the same here with Fire Chief Sir. I'm on my phone now. I'm on WikiQuote. I remembered something that Stokely Carmichael once said that I wanted to bring up. And before I get clear, that people who go on hunger strikes, people who sacrifice their health or their security, their well-being in any way, for social justice, those people have my utmost respect. So I don't want you to think that by reading this quote that I'm like disrespecting people who make serious sacrifices for their cause. So Stokely Carmichael once said, Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for Black people in the United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none. And that's how I felt about hunger strikes, because you could die a very slow, agonizing, brutal death. And what's keeping that from happening is your opponent's conscience. They have a conscience, then they'll give in to your demands and you'll be able to eat again. But if they don't have one, then you might not eat. And it's like, if they did have one, then the thing that you were protesting against wouldn't have been a problem to begin with, because they would have solved that problem without you having to go on a hunger strike. So I guess I didn't really understand the point. But when I was talking about the recent hunger strikes in San Francisco State and with the Frisco 5, talking about, you know, the other people, the people who are rising up in support of these hunger strikers. So it made me wonder, well, is the strike for, you know, the people at the top, or is it for those of us, those slacktivists, the armchair activists who normally think, oh, that's distasteful, that thing that's happening, I don't agree with it, it goes against my sensibilities, but now I'm going to not think about it. I'm just going to go on with my life and not do anything to change that. So I don't know, maybe the strikes are successful in that it's mobilizing more people to say, hey, in the Frisco 5, they are being hospitalized, their condition is very poor, and the people Francisco State University. I mean, four of them are teenagers, and the other one is 20 years old, and they haven't eaten in 6 days, and that's very unhealthy. So that makes it all the more urgent for us to act for them or with them, and to put extra pressure on the president of San Francisco State University in order to increase funding, and to put extra pressure on the mayor of San Francisco to fire fucking police chief Greg Sears. So think about this issue of slacktivism and armchair activism, and you would ever go on a hunger strike. Personally, I don't think that I have it in me. But again, I have the utmost respect for people who are that willing to fight for their beliefs, that they will deny themselves food. That is very powerful. I will talk to you later, eventually, when I can. And until then,